Alright, hello people. So I got this new reaction video. It's called The Downfall of Ben Shapiro is Finally Happening. Con parentheses, a conservative civil war, end of parentheses. So yeah, I have, you know, Ben Shapiro is somebody who has I have been neutral about, and then very lately, me as mostly everybody else, like 99% of the people have just turned against so bad because he's blatantly anti-American. So the guy is a treasonous guy. He's a shill. He's a weasel. So yeah, I'm excited to see what this guy has to offer. The channel is called the the Cavern Knuckle, if I'm pronouncing that right. But yeah, let's just start.
That topic is the fragmentation of the political right. That fragmentation is being caused purposefully by a splinter faction of people led by a young man named Nick Fuentes. They call themselves the Groypers. They are white supremacists. They hate women, Jews, Hindus, many types of Christians, brown people of a wide variety of backgrounds, blacks, America's foreign policy, and America's Constitution. They admire Hitler and Stalin. And that splinter faction is now being facilitated and normalized within the mainstream Republican Party. The main agent in that normalization is Tucker Carlson, who is an intellectual coward, a dishonest interlocutor, and a terrible friend.
Today, Tucker Carlson is the most dangerous anti-Semite in America.
He's a representative from Florida. He's the same guy who bragged about not washing his hands after he had a handshake with Netanyahu. He's repeatedly introduced bills to criminalize anti-Semitism, infringing upon free speech. I mean, he obviously, I'm sorry to say, but he obviously cares more about Israel than he does, principles like free speech. So, buddy, like, my advice to you, Randy Fine, is just move to Israel at this point.
I have just about had it with Matt Walsh. Matt, you work for this guy. Whose side are you on already? Matt Walsh, every day on his show, he goes on Twitter in his show and says, this is all just gossip and drama. It ain't gossip and drama. This is the war. And Walsh wants to get on Twitter and say, I just don't want to talk about it. I just want to keep taking a...
Get back to work, Matt Walsh. Okay, sir. That's when I see this is what comes to my mind.
Paycheck from the worst of the worst, Shapiro. You got to pick a side, and nobody can let him get away with this.
So if you've been following my social media for like any long period of time, you know I used to be pretty big on Twitter. I used to tweet a lot. And since 2025, I've pretty much quit Twitter. I have gone back to tweet about very few stories, mainly to get on board with the fight against like the chorus crew, like those...
I'm sorry to like stop this a lot, but and I know it might be a little bit childish, but this guy has the most British accent, like the most typical British accent I've ever heard. Like, well, Cockney, mate. I don't know. I just find that a little funny. As funny as it is.
Mainly to get on board with the fight against like the chorus crew, like those democratic influencers. But it's pretty rare I actually tweet, and it's pretty rare I actually go on it. I usually go on Twitter to just dig up tweets and reaction to certain events. So Zoran Mamdani winning the like mayor election of New York, I went on Twitter to see the reaction to that. But while I was on getting like tweets for a video and stuff like that, I stumbled across something which has been brewing for the longest time, and I've probably even made videos about this before, but I've never seen it this bad. It's basically conservatives in America are now having like a full-blown civil war, basically over how much they support Israel. So you have the pro-Israel faction, and
I would say it's not even like it's a civil war between the top people and the bottom people, because the common folk, almost none of them support the Z people. None of them support Izzy, So it's really I don't think it's a civil war as much as it's like it's decided basically. It's just a matter of time, because it's one of two things that can happen, right? So it's either that the top people, like all the leaders, all the representative, will change to fit what the population actually believes, or they will be forced out of there. I mean, they will go away either way because they have no support at this point. People who are the people who are pro Z people and the Republican or the Democrats are like very few and in between. It's not even a civil war. It's like a takeover.
you have I hesitate to call them the anti-Israel faction because a lot of them don't hate Israel because they have such a problem with what they've done to Palestine. It's more that they're like these America firsters who just don't want to aid foreign countries, but you do have a significant majority of them actually hating Israel, but it's more because Israel is Jewish rather than its human rights abuses and just it being an apartheid state. And this is manifesting itself in Nick Fuentes versus Ben Shapiro, which has been like an ongoing feud for like the longest time. But now what's happening is Ben Shapiro is directly calling out these people because Nick Fuentes went on Tucker Carlson. He got a New York Times like weird profile thing, and he's becoming increasingly mainstream. And it also combines with people like Candace Owens, people like Marjorie Taylor Greene, Tucker Carlson, and even people like Brett Cooper, who are more going into the anti-Israel stuff now. What you're basically seeing is like older, like millennial and even older Republicans trying to cling on to the conservative identity as being like inherently pro-Israel versus a lot of Gen Z conservatives and some like millennial conservatives as well being against Israel. But what is so funny about all of this is a lot of these conservatives like Ben Shapiro are acting like the stuff Nick Fuentes and Tucker Carlson are saying about like race and gender and all that stuff is just terrible, is so out of step of what conservatives generally say. And I would just say, and I think a lot of you would agree, the conservative movement in America and people like Ben Shapiro have been open fascists for like a decade, right? And what is happening is
I sort of disagree. I think it's debatable. I mean, they've been doing a good job at like kind of walking this line of are they fascist? Are they not? Are they fascist? Are they not? I personally have no idea what's their. My best guess at their end game, at least the pro Z people like Ben Shapiro is for Izzy's to have all the control. It doesn't matter what happens, especially but for Ben Shapiro because he's in the conservative movement, so he's making sure that the conservative movement is pro Izzy, is a slave to Izzy. That's his main concern. I don't think he even cares that much about if it's fascist or not, but he's trying to like kind of appear as this person who is like championing the right values or something of that sort. So yeah, I'm just saying it's debatable, at least in my view.
they're finally having a problem with some people who share that sentiment because some of the younger people don't like Israel. That's pretty much purely what it's about. And they're losing their grip on the conservative movement being pro-Israel. That is literally it, because these people fundamentally do not have a problem with a lot of the stuff things like Nick Fuentes believe. The only other thing they have a problem with is because Nick Fuentes is more homophobic and is anti-Semitic, because a lot of people at the Daily Wire are gay or Jewish, they're feeling now personally threatened as well by this rising movement amongst Republicans. But Nick Fuentes is the Frankenstein's monster. All the people opposing him now are the people who laid the groundwork for people like Donald Trump.
Yeah.
Even though they didn't like Donald Trump,
that's true.
They created this cesspool online of just insane racism and fascism.
Conquest and colonization and settling of this land was overall a good and noble and courageous thing. It is good that it happened, and we should be grateful for it. The people who came here and claimed this land were heroes. It was heroic.
I know here it's like, I might have some people disagree or disagree with me. I think it's a lot more nuanced. That's my sincere opinion. I think there are some bad things happen and there's some good things happened. I don't want to go too much into the detail because there's like atrocities on all sides.
And they were heroes not because of the other good stuff, but because they came and claimed it.
The difference here is Mussolini was a pretty bad guy. He wasn't the worst guy in the world. He wasn't Stalin. He wasn't Lenin. But Mussolini was, let's say, at least a mixed bag, leaning on the side of bad. He was a bad political leader.
What is it with this smile? He was bad. He's like trying to dog whistle or something there. He's like, I don't know exactly what is he's dog whistling here. It just looks funny.
Franco was broadly speaking, pretty good.
And now they hate it because these people who were indoctrinated by people just like them, Ben Shapiro, Steven Crowder, Tucker Carlson, all these people, are now turning around being like, yeah, we actually agree with you on most stuff, but we actually also hate Israel as well. And that's too much for people like Ben Shapiro. But it seems like he's just becoming increasingly irrelevant. And obviously this is scary in some ways, because you don't want to see something like even worse than what you had before becoming more popular. But what always happens with far-right movements is loads and loads of infighting, which can kneecap their ability to actually like taking power. And I'm hoping we're seeing that in the UK as well, because you have Tommy Robinson, obviously backed by Elon Musk.
Tommy Robinson, in my opinion, is a very bad knockoff of Nick Fuentes. Tommy Robinson is a pro-Z people. I don't understand. Look, if you're a pro-Z person, in my opinion, you cannot, like, your opinion is invalid, because you, and especially if you're in the right, because if you're in the right and you believe that your country should be first, how can you support being basically owned by the Z people, by Izzy? You know, that's just, it's just a contradiction that you cannot fix. You know, if your government is subsidizing, constantly giving money to foreign government who have free healthcare, who have free college, who have free education, who have all of these things, while you don't, and you're sinking more and more deeply in economic hardship, and you're telling me that you should be supporting that, and you're pro Britain? No freaking way, man. If I was British, which God forbid I'd never be British, you know, I would not, I would not, you know, like, it's just nonsense, you know, I cannot wrap my head around what does that even mean. So I think Tommy Robinson is a representative of something that is more emotional, and at the same time, he's a shill. He's not like grassroots. I think Nick Fuentes could claim he's more like a grassroots. What's his name? Robinson. He's a shill and emotional at best. He's just like an emotional, like, you know. So yeah, I don't want to go too much into it, but yeah, Tommy Robinson, I don't like him a lot for his inconsistency. You know, Nick Fuentes, I just agree with some of stuff that he says. I don't agree with everything that he says, but at least he's consistent. You know, his logic is more consistent, at least.
Musk, who is a more extreme voice, and then you have a lot of the reform politicians and candidates who are also pretty extreme, but they want political power, and they're kind of like trying to act like politicians, where people like Tommy Robinson and others are just absolutely insane and unhinged. And would never be accepted in like the classist system
They shouldn't
of
be.
the UK.
They
But
shouldn't
you
be.
hope that infighting will actually destroy reform's ability to actually get into power. So you hope that something similar.
This guy is so sneaky too, you know. I mean, he kind of started off like, you know, he's like, you know, anti the Z people, anti-apartheid, all these good stuff. But now he cares more about, oh, let's dismantle is the other party. I think it's like, if you're sincere about your support to be anti what Izzy is doing, if you're anti that and you want to get rid of them, this should be always your main focus. You should not revert to, oh, the other party bad. Even if you believe that, that should not be your main thing. Your main thing, like, how can you live in a, if you're one of those people, you should not be able to live in a world that is supporting that's supporting apartheid, that's supporting what Izzy is doing, that is supporting the Z people control over the Western Hemisphere, over the Western civilization. You know, and I'm not even saying that the Western civilization is the greatest thing ever. It has a lot of mistakes, but I'm just saying, if you're that kind of person, it don't add up. You know, you should be focusing on what Izzy is doing, not the other party, because that's what I feel like could bring you down.
Is happening here with the conservative movement in America. But all of that coming up for you today. If you like my video after you've watched it, please like it. Maybe subscribe to the channel as well. If you want to support my work, please check out my Patreon page and check out YouTube memberships. And if you want to follow me on social media, don't follow me on Twitter. Follow me on Blue Sky and Instagram at The Tabernacle. So basically, for a bit of context around this,
it says, don't support me on Twitter. Support me, like it just made me curious. You know, like, What is there in Twitter that you don't want us to see?
Tucker Carlson was the really, really racist white nationalist Fox News host who got eventually fired. He started his own show focusing on Twitter, and he's interviewed people across the political spectrum, but mainly lately people who are anti-Israel. And he interviews like really fringe voices and insane people like, Alex Jones. He's had Marjorie Taylor Greene on recently as well. And now what has sparked all of this is he had Nick Fuentes on, and they just talked about basically all his politics. And what Tucker Carlson is doing with his guests is these interviews aren't adversarial. They're not him challenging these people. It's basically he's getting people on who agree with him on certain things, and they frame the conversation all around the things they agree on. You saw him have Anna Kasparian on, and I covered this, where they basically act like they...
I just wanted to say, so like, I'm not gonna like this video because the title says "The Downfall of Ben Shapiro." Now, so far he's going on so many tangents, about politics and Robinson, Tommy, he's going on so many and Nick and Tucker and this and that, and like I came for the downfall of Ben Shapiro. So where is it? I'm hoping it's gonna be like the second half or something.
Agreed on like most things. It was like a really bizarre thing to see someone who non-stop called Tucker Carlson a racist until like 2022 going on this show and acting like he wasn't, and he's not actually anti-Semitic or racist. But anyway, it's basically mainly a interview show platforming like the worst far-right voices in America. But because Tucker Carlson is pretty tied up with conservative establishment figures, and he knows a lot of like these media figures, they got really mad because Nick Fuentes has of course been attacking Donald Trump. JD Vance said like just insane things about JD Vance and said stuff about Ben Shapiro loads as well. Anyway, for a lot of mainstream conservative figures, this interview was a step too far, and now they have gone after Tucker Carlson pretty hard. So I want to just show you a clip. Ben Shapiro made a 40-minute video responding to this interview and talking about like why it's so bad. And you might have seen this term being thrown around. They call the anti-Israel conservative movement the woke right. Now here is a little clip of Ben Shapiro talking about why he has so many issues with this video.
I want to do something different on today's show. We're going to cover one topic in depth. That topic is, I think, the most important thing happening in the country. It was a hot topic last week, but I wanted to take some time to really gather my thoughts and speak on it in coherent fashion, holistic fashion. That topic is the fragmentation of the political right. That fragmentation is being caused purposefully by a splinter faction of people led by a young man named Nick Fuentes. They call themselves the Groypers. They are white supremacists. They hate women, Jews, Hindus, many types of Christians, brown people of a wide variety of backgrounds, blacks, America's foreign policy, and America's Constitution. They admire Hitler and Stalin. And that splinter faction is now being facilitated and normalized within the mainstream Republican Party. The main agent in that normalization is Tucker Carlson, who is an intellectual coward, a dishonest interlocutor, and a terrible friend. And Tucker Carlson last week was aided, abetted, celebrated for normalizing Nazism within the Republican Party by the mainstay organization of the traditional right, the Heritage Foundation. The issue here isn't that Tucker Carlson had Nick Fuentes on his show last week. He has every right to do that, of course. The issue here is that Tucker Carlson decided to normalize and fluff Nick Fuentes, and that the Heritage Foundation then decided to robustly defend that performance. Those who criticize both Tucker and Heritage aren't canceling. They are quite properly drawing a moral line. So, for those who don't understand what's going on, let's begin with Nick Fuentes. Now, as I mentioned, last week, Tucker Carlson had on...
His voice is so annoying, like, I don't know, Tucker Carlson, is this and that, is Nick Fuentes. He's... I don't know, he sounds like, I forgot, like he sounds like something that I have heard before, but I don't know what it is. Sort of like, I don't know, it's like a kid's movie where there's like a squirrel or something, and he talks like that, like, it's like a, yeah, it's like from some sort of like a Pixar movie, a squirrel or a weasel character. It's like, it's literally, he literally sounds like a Pixar movie character of a weasel, which just adds to the whole thing. I mean, he looks like a weasel, he's acting like a weasel, he sounds like a weasel. If something tastes like water, looks like water, smells like water, it must be water. Is he actually? Is this gonna start some kind of new theory? Like instead of the lizard people, it's like the weasel people. You know, they're just like he's an actual weasel pretending to be a human. You know, and he has like a like this costume or whatever. He just takes it off, just like a Men in Black sort of thing.
On Nick Fuentes. Fuentes is a 27-year-old man who's dubbed himself the leader of a movement called the Groypers. He has a large audience of alienated young white men in particular, and he's earned increased media attention over the course of the past few years, especially over the last year. Now, from Tucker Carlson's interview, you might have gathered that Fuentes has some borderline views on race, a peculiar obsession with what he calls organized Jewry, and a rather sad relationship with the female sex. But probably you came away thinking that, for the most part,
No.
Fuentes lives on the radical edge of normality. You think that if you watch the interview, because Tucker Carlson decided that it was important not only to host Fuentes, but to smooth over his views, water them down, and make them far more palatable to a normal audience.
For the record, I have watched the interview, and he didn't do that. He, in fact, he did the opposite. He was like, he was being sneaky and just like kind of. He not only didn't do that, he did the opposite. I'm just saying, from me watching this interview, that was my perspective. So what is he talking about? It must be his, I don't know, his own imagination or his own. I don't know what is he what is he talking about?
Audience. As we'll discuss in a bit, this is what Tucker Carlson does for a living.
So if you're really curious, you can watch the whole thing. It is like a really, really thorough takedown of Nick Fuentes and Tucker Carlson, and you don't really see this much on conservative YouTube. A few times you've seen these people do it, but even the way, for example, like when they tried to take down Steven Crowder and everything, the way they frame it is designed in a way to try and keep as many people in their audience as possible who might actually like the other person. So what they're doing here is a lot different. They're literally just saying Tucker Carlson and Nick Fuentes are just terrible and outlining why they're so bad. But again, it's really, really funny to me that Ben Shapiro is even bringing up all the racism and hatred of women that these people believe in. Like, him and all the hosts at the Daily Wire don't believe the exact same shit and haven't said the exact same shit.
It's debatable. I don't think I have heard Ben Shapiro say stuff like that. He might have been in the edges. Again, this is one of these things that are like kind of debatable. So they're like towing a thin line there. For like sometimes they're trying to like be a little bit there, be a little bit not. I am personally, if you're watching and you don't know me, I'm against feminism. Not the original thing where they like I want to speak about that in a maybe in a video just to explain what I think about feminism, how did it come. But in the current manifestation of it, I'm against it. In the current manifestation where there's no families, just breaking as a family. Like a woman is refusing to basically do her role as a wife while expecting the husband to do his role and more. This is something that I have been against, is destroying a family. It's
shit for years and years and years, and that there is virtually no difference between Ben Shapiro, Tucker Carlson, and Nick Fuentes, apart from where they stand on things like foreign policy and mainly on Israel support. Like, that is literally the only difference. So that is why it's so funny that they think there's a difference. But yeah, you can tell people like Ben Shapiro and others, they mainly care about keeping the conservative movement pro-Israel. And of course,
he's somewhat right there. I mean, Nick Fuentes is a little, he's more raw, so he's more sort of like apparent in his views, while Ben Shapiro might be hiding more. But he is right about that. The main issue here is the support for Izzy.
Fuentes responded to this and just like, this is the shit I was seeing on Twitter when I logged on. No to Ben Shapiro, no to the neocons, no to dual citizens, no to Netanyahu, no to cancel culture, no to genocide and ethnic cleansing, no to the Christ-hating Talmud, no to Greater Israel, and no to our Jewish oligarchy. America first, America forever. So a split between oligarchy, America first, America forever. So
I just want to see that again. I want to read it. So Nick Fuentes says no to Ben Shapiro, no to the neocons, no to dual citizens, no to Benjamin Netanyahu, no to cancel culture, no to, I'm not gonna read that, no to Christ hating Talmud, no to Greater Israel, no to our Jewish oligarchy. America first, America forever. And then Ben Shapiro replied, no to the Groypers, no to the covers like Tucker, who normalized trash. He should have kept it simple. You know, I'm not with Ben here, but at least Nick's thing is simple. You know, it's clear formal language. You know, Ben is like he couldn't handle making a second like point without being like, who was they're trash. This is a very trashy statement, objectively. If somebody's speaking like that, they're trashy. Even if you're talking about that person being trash, you are talking trashy. Not to those who champion them. Okay, so this is just the first point. No, so no to cowards like Tucker Carlson, and no to those who champion them. It's the same thing, you know. It's them and the ones that champion them. No to demoralize. This is very vague. What does even this mean? Like demoralization about what? Like it's very vague. You know, you can't tell what is this about. No to bigotry and anti. Wait. No to bigotry. I think you're. I thought you were supposed to be in the right. You know, this is usually like a lefty sort of take. You know, no to bigotry, and anti-meritocratic. No to anti-Americanism. No, you are anti-Americanism. Ben Shapiro's objectively anti-American. He's an Izzy Firster. Ben is broken at this point. You know when like a toy sort of overheats. I don't know if you've watched any of these videos where like you know, so you have a toy and then you turn all the voltage like way too high and it starts acting so fast and it breaks and it like, you know, the circuits short. So Ben, his circuits are shorting right now. He doesn't know what he's doing because this list, it looks like it's written by like a child throwing a tantrum. They're like, no to this, no to that. No, no. I could imagine his voice. No, no, no. It's just, I don't know. It's just really interesting. Let's just go ahead and continue.
No to our Jewish oligarchy. America first, America forever. So a split between Ben Shapiro and Nick Fuentes is obviously something we've seen for a long time, although Ben Shapiro has been really hesitant to actually call out Nick Fuentes. But the split between him and Tucker Carlson is really interesting and has actually forced a lot of conservatives to now pick sides, like what side you actually want to be on. One of the more interesting ones, which shows the way it's going, is Brett Cooper was defending Nick Fuentes from being called a Nazi by Ted Cruz. And I think that just shows everything. And even watching this clip, I was surprised at what she was saying because you could really interpret it as being like anti-Israel. And one of those things she was talking about was a guy called Randy Fine. You might have seen him for having the most racist Twitter account. And that's saying something, like the most racist Twitter account on Twitter. And she was coming after him. And he was another one who was just like attacking Tucker Carlson, even comparing him to like Hitler. So let's have a look at a few of these clips.
You are so blinded by your ridiculous, insane hatred of Tucker Carlson that you cannot see how irresponsible and hypocritical you are being. I mean, these tweets from Ted Cruz, I'm going to read you next, are a great example of this. So just a month ago, he tweeted this. He said, "They don't kill you because you're a Nazi. They call you a Nazi so they can kill you. Political violence is a left-wing phenomenon. Enough is enough. We need to shut it down." And then in response to Fuentes and Tucker this week, he tweeted this. "Trump's bombing of the Ayatollah's nuclear facilities made the little Nazi mad. Good." So now you're turning around and you're calling somebody that you don't like a Nazi. You're doing this out of blind rage because you're so angry that the conservative base's attitudes are rapidly changing, that Nick Fuentes is getting national attention, and so you have turned around and in response, you are compromising your own values in anger, which is such a dangerous precedent to set. And unfortunately for you guys, yes, the attitudes are changing, so again, it makes sense why this group is incredibly frantic. Oh, he is. He's a representative from Florida. He's the same guy who bragged.
I'm just like, so far she's absolutely correct. She's absolutely right. She's on point.
About not washing his hands after he had a handshake with Netanyahu. He's repeatedly introduced bills to criminalize anti-Semitism, infringing upon free speech. I mean, he obviously, I'm sorry to say, but he obviously cares more about Israel than he does, you know, principles like free speech. So, buddy, like my advice to you, Randy Fine, is just move to Israel at this point. Like, considering you had to go through anger management classes a few years ago, I genuinely think you would probably be happier if you just moved to Israel. And that's not a dig at him. That's just a fact. It's a nudge of encouragement. I want everybody to be happy. I want everybody to be healthy. I think you would be happier if you just moved to Israel. You could be over there singing songs with Mike Huckabee.
So why I think this is interesting is I don't think Brett Cooper actually believes in anything. She was a failed actress who became a Daily Wire host. So she just believed what the Daily Wire told her to believe. She would just have the same positions as Ben Shapiro. Now she's left. She says she's like besties with Candace Owens. Candace Owens is obviously going against things like Israel, and now she is also being more comfortable in being against Israel because so many Gen Z conservative men that watch her channel also don't like Israel, and that even leads her to defend actual Nazis like Nick Fuentes from being called Nazis just because she knows where her audience are now. But I think that's interesting because although I think she probably knows Nick Fuentes is a Nazi.
I don't think he's the N word, not not the typical N word, but the NA word. I don't think that. Although I don't agree with all of his views, I think he can be I think he can be extreme sometimes. But he's right about that. Yeah. So the population, the people of America, are basically siding with Nick. They're siding with. Yeah. So you just gotta cater to the people. Gen Z, we're tired of it. We're very tired. There is so I was just talking to a buddy of mine who was a millennial, and I was letting him know, if you think that millennials had it bad, that is the whole generation boiling. You have no. I don't want to say words that would get me demonetized here, but Gen Z is more than angry. Angry is an understatement. Cause we as Gen Z, not only that we basically don't get to own property, we don't even get to like have a relationship. We don't have we don't get to have a stable family. We don't get nothing. We're loneliness, overworked, poor. Just it's like absolute slavery for many of us in America. That is, we're not talking about China. We're not talking about all of these other countries. We're talking about in America. You're raising a generation of slaves, and we're not standing up for that. We don't care. We don't care. You're not gonna take our taxes and give them to a foreign government. This is just so insulting. That Gen Z is boiling in rage, and I think a lot of people underestimate how big is that.
See, obviously someone who's an insane misogynist as well. She's an actress who is just acting, right? So she's playing to what she thinks people want right now, and that shows you how much online, at least, American conservatives are divided. And even that person, Randy Fine, she brought up, who again is just this insane racist, he also went really hard after Tucker Carlson as well, even more so than Ben Shapiro. So listen to what he said.
I want to talk about the dark force rising on our side. Multiple speakers have talked about the rise of anti-Semitism on the right. But it is not enough to speak in platitudes or generalities about the fight. We must call evil by its name. 5 years ago, if I was talking to my father, who's watching, hi Dad, if I was talking to my father at 8:59 p.m. at night, he would say, Randy, I gotta go. Tucker Carlson's gonna be on. But make no mistake, today, Tucker Carlson is the most dangerous anti-Semite in America. He has chosen...
There's nobody more dangerous in that room than this guy. He's the most dangerous to America, to everybody there, to everybody in general. Tucker Carlson is in my opinion, he's a courageous man who is trying to understand the younger generation. And, I don't know, it just props for Tucker, man. This guy is insane.
He has chosen to take on the mantle of leader of a modern-day Hitler Youth, to broadcast and feature those who celebrate the Nazis, those who call...
I'm sorry to go off on a tangent so many times here, but it's one thing to call a generation or a group of people by these sort of slurs, but it's another to do that while physically, mentally, economically breaking them down over and over and over and over. What does that do to a person? Right now, me and millions like me who are in America, who are white, who are non-white, who are just wherever race and ethnicity, there's millions of me who are, again, like the word enraged does not do it justice, because we are being crushed so hard by everything, by the economy, by workplaces, by women, by feminism, by everything, by our boomer parents, something that I want to talk about at some point. so crushed by everything, and moreover, being told that we are at fault. I am at fault. Yes, I am at fault. I studied hard. I worked hard. I did all what my parents told me to do. I did what society told me to do, and I don't have anything. And beyond that, I am at fault. Like f you, f this guy. Um, yeah, I just I'm I don't know if I should call this video a reaction or a commentary, but I think a word reaction is more popular, so I'll just call it a reaction. But it's more of a commentary that I'm doing here. I'm trying to represent the the demographics that I'm from. I am one of the people who are being crushed so bad by everything around them, not being let to even breathe. And I might be forced to work in slavery for the rest of my life because of this guy. This guy, he should be hanged for treason, for being anti-American, for doing so much evil to so many people around the world and in America. Like they're literally harming children, raping children overseas in Palestine, and they are economically and psychologically messing us up in America. We're already experiencing something of what Palestine is experiencing. If we don't stop them, if we don't stop these people, we're gonna end up exactly like Palestine. We are gonna be Hamas supporters. We're gonna be the internal, you know, terrorists or something. They will come for us like they're coming for people in Palestine. They don't care. They will crush us. They will crush our kids. You will not even let us have kids. They will take a kid from his dad to leave it with his delusional mom who's brainwashed by them people. It's I don't know where to begin, where to start, and and where to even end. But this is really it's for anybody who's listening to this who is from what I come from is very angering.
Call for the extermination of Israel, to defend Hamas,
Screw
to even
Israel.
criticize President Trump for stopping Iran's nuclear ambitions.
Screw Israel and screw Trump for supporting Israel. How about that?
Friends, make no mistake. Tucker is not MAGA.
Tucker is 10,000 times more MAGA than you, buddy.
So yeah, another insanely pro-Israel conservative is saying Tucker Carlson is leading like Hitler Youth and shit. It shows you the deep split happening in the conservative movement right now, and showing you how it's not about like policy disagreements. It's literally about this one issue. We've seen other people like Matt Walsh, who is like even more openly fascist than people like Ben Shapiro. He's trying to play both sides, and the America First movement aren't buying it because he obviously works at Ben Shapiro. People like Megyn Kelly are saying that all this infighting allowed people like Mamdani to win, and even...
I am getting tired. I've had a lot of commentary, but you kind of got the gist of it, of what my opinions are about this specific topic. But yeah, Ben Shapiro is a freaking weasel. I don't get much to say about that. Yeah, I already think that I said all what I needed to be said, and I hope that I hope that people who are my age, who are younger, people who are struggling, I hope that you don't budge. Even if you're older, if you're older, younger, it don't matter to me. If you're an American, heck, you're non-American, you're somewhere in this world, you're an honest, decent person who's trying to make it, who's trying to do good, who's trying to have a family, who's trying to treat people good, who's trying to make it. Don't budge. Just don't budge. And keep trying to work smartly, keep trying to find ways around stuff. And see you at a different time.